about peer pressure. I'm sure you have no idea what I'm talking about. Right. Actually, I'm sure you do. We all encounter this every day of our lives. And actually, I'm a great one to talk to you about this because just the way my makeup, who I am, I was set up to get plagued by this guy for all of my life. And I'm not. And I want to talk to you about that. I had the advantage of having a big sister in my life. She paved the way for me in a lot of ways. She told me things like, "You're set apart, Michelle. You don't have to be like everybody else." And she modeled that too. She also did things like people's definitions of cool do not have to be yours. You can define your own cool. That was revolutionary to me back when she was modeling this for me. She also said things like, being mainstream, that's overrated. That's true. Now, I don't know if you have a sister like that. I can only hope that you do. But if you don't, or if you haven't heard those things from your older sister, I want to jump in right here and say, hey, little sister, being mainstream is totally overrated. And you can create your own cool. You don't have to go with what everybody else tells you is cool, is what you need to do, is obviously the way it needs to happen. In fact, there's all these studies done on the popular kids in high school and how by the time they hit young adulthood, they're not voted popular kids anymore. Because when you're in high school, doing what everybody else is doing is kind of what you're supposed to do. It kind of makes you hip. It makes you one of the ones. But by the time you're just on the other side of that, you know that actually it's the independent thinkers. It's the people who can think for themselves. It's the people who have their own ideas that go on to do really amazing things with their lives. And that's you. That's what you're called to do. We have an amazing example of this in the Bible. King David, who was first just actually someone who looked over the sheep. He came from a big family with all these brothers, and he was actually kind of the runt of the litter. He was the baby. He was the baby. And then when all of his brothers went to war, he was left with the sheep because he was such a big deal, you know? Right. Okay, but here's what's happened in that place of solitude. While he was taking care of the sheep, he was developing this inner strength with God. He killed a lion. I don't think he killed a tiger or a bear, but he definitely killed a lion. And he developed this thing inside of him that was knowing who he was. He developed this inner strength where he started to hear what God said about him. And that started to define who he was individually. So when it came time for him to bring, I don't know, lunch or something to his brothers at war, he did that. He brought them what they needed. And when he got there, he realized that there was this big bad giant named Goliath who was threatening the Israelite army, and he was terrifying the Israelites. There was no one who would take him on. But David was there, and David said to his brothers, hey, I can do this. And then what happened? Oh, he was mocked, and he was laughed at by his peers. He was told, he was discredited at that very moment, but he knew what God said about him, so that didn't really matter. So then we all know he went and fought Goliath. But see, that battle was already won because he passed the test when it came to what the people around him and his peers had to say about who he was. He knew who God said he was, and he killed Goliath and went on to become a mighty king. That is our birthright as people who are set apart, who are called to a different standard of what is cool and what we're going to do, the people who can think our own thoughts and go ahead and say, you know what, that might be okay for you, but that's not okay for me. And little sister, you're called to change the world. So let's break this down in really basic bite-sized pieces. Your Goliath could look like a lot of things. Peer pressure has a lot of faces. It looks to some people like feeling pressure to go to the party they know they shouldn't go to because, well, everybody's going to be there. Maybe it looks like, oh, yeah, I'm going to have to get sexually active because everybody is doing it. Okay, maybe it looks like you've got to have this or you've got to have that or you've got to look just right. Well, I challenge you today to take those points of pressure that you feel. When you feel that fear, you take that thing and take it straight to God. Don't let it tell you what to do. Take it straight to God and see what he has to say about your fears. The Bible says, I sought the Lord and he heard me and delivered me from all of my fears. He is your salvation. He is the person that will deliver you from the pressure of people on your life.